All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have our student reps lead us, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Linda.
Kristen Cambenzi,
Here.
Glenn Sarka, James Hewitt,
Here.
Jennifer Cliff,
Here.
Jennifer Ray,
Here.
Cheryl Maddox Smith,
Here.
Jason Zadunik,
Here.
Okay, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support. All right, motion made by Mr. Hewitt, support by Ms. Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Cambenzi. I don't have anything to report myself, but Mr. Lampman will be reporting on the food truck proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Sedgwick. So I apologize if this isn't an issue that's been put on the board's radar prior to tonight's meeting, but just to give you a little bit of background, we currently have 3 box trucks in our transportation fleet. One is a 1999 16-foot box truck. One is a 2011 12-foot box truck, and the newest one is a 2021 16-foot box truck. These are used for several purposes in the district. The 2021's main purpose is for transportation of meals within the district. The 2011 is used for various things like moving band equipment. It's also been somewhat of a backup for our food service truck. And then the 1999 has also been a backup for the district. Our mechanic is now advising that we no longer use our 1999 box truck as a backup for our food service. In your packet, you have a memo with some exhibits attached. If you look at Exhibit A on our 1999 box truck, you can see there's significant rust on the ribs on the bottom of the box truck. So we're being advised not to use it for food delivery. Now, with our 2011 truck that could potentially be used as a backup for food delivery, there's a couple of issues with that. One, it is a smaller box. It's only a 12-foot box, so it does not hold as much or as many of our meal carts as we would need it to. The second issue is with the lift gate. The lift gate on the 2011 truck does not rise up fully to meet level with the bed of the truck. There's about 1.5 inches shortfall there. So when staff is trying to wheel carts into the 2011 box truck, the carts have to be tilted up at a pretty significant angle to overcome that 1.5 inch difference in height. And again, that's demonstrated in, I believe it's Exhibit B in the photos. So we have done some homework, and we're bringing forth tonight a proposal for the purchase of a new food truck that could be used as a solid backup. In your packet, actually I left it for you on your table in front of you this evening. Before the meeting, I just pulled together a little data for you on the number of meals that we're serving currently. So from September through January this year, we served 56,874 breakfasts. That's up by almost 31,000 breakfasts served from the prior year. It's a 119% increase. Looking at our lunches, from September to January, we served 146,000 lunches. That's up 37,000 from the year before. That's a 34% increase. So right now, our kitchen is putting out a tremendous amount of meals due to the universal free lunch program that's being provided by the state. So again, we feel that there is a need right now. If our primary vehicle is down for servicing, which it has been from time to time, we just currently don't have a solid backup for the number of meals that we're delivering. So we're proposing the purchase of a 2023 Chevrolet Model 4500 low cab Ford with a 17-foot box in the amount of $64,478, with the additional cost of $10,334 to install a rail lift gate in order to load our food service carts. It's basically the same vehicle that you see in attachment C, the 2021 Chevy box truck that we currently have in our fleet, except it does have a slightly larger box at 17 feet. This is being competitively bid through the My Deal program, through Berger Chevrolet, and we do have $30,000 currently budgeted for equipment that we can put towards this purchase. The remaining amount would require a budget adjustment, but we do have adequate fund balance to absorb the additional cost. So our recommendation will be to make this purchase, and I guess I'll open it up to the board if there's any questions.
Mr. Lampman, regarding the 99 truck, what is sort of the plan? I mean, what are the plans for that? Can that be utilized for just common transportation needs, or are we thinking about selling it, or what's the plan with the one that just cannot be used for food service?
I have our bus mechanic doing some research. That's a heavy-duty frame, heavy-duty chassis on that truck. Even though the box is rusted out, you could repurpose the truck. It's still got less than 100,000 miles. I was thinking maybe a dump bed for a long time. I've thought it'd be nice to have a dump bed, either on a trailer or a truck, and he's researching whether or not that truck can be repurposed and retrofitted with a dump bed.
I don't have a question, but for the benefit of the public, just thought it was worth mentioning as well that the food service fund is 100% different compared to all the other funds that we have, and in that it has a threshold in which there's a formula that we can't exceed to have a certain balance, and for the past few years we've actually had a higher balance than what is allowed under that threshold. Is that correct to say, Mr. Lehman?
That is correct, Mr. Hewitt.
So even though this is above budget, it would be probably even recommended that we find something that's, very useful and worthwhile to spend some money on. So.
Will this be taken out of the general fund or that food service fund?
This would come from the food service fund. As Mr. Hewitt pointed out, the food service fund is a separate fund. It has its own funding mechanism through meal reimbursements and meal sales. And as Mr. Hewitt did point out, we currently have an excess of fund balance in the fund based off the state's formula. So we do have an active spend down plan in order to bring our fund balance down to the required threshold. And we were one of 500 plus districts in the state that wound up with an excess fund balance due to the free meal program that the federal government enacted during COVID.
Do you know approximately what the fund balance is that we're north of that threshold?
Off the top of my head, the formula is around 400,000 recommended for fund balance. In our current budget projection, we were at about 630,000 to end this fiscal year. So if we were to enact this purchase, we'd be down to about 585,000 in fund balance as an estimate coming into June 30 this year.
Thank you.
Typically, you have 2 or 3 different bids. Is there a reason we only got, one single bid?
So the My Deals program is enacted by the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan competitively bids those contracts, and then the state allows local units to piggyback off of those competitively bid contracts, so it satisfies the competitive bid requirements.
Thank you.
Jim, I have a question on the 2011 12-foot box truck that has the lift gate issue. Is that something that you'd be looking to fix that lift gate, and what purpose would we be keeping that to use band equipment, move band equipment? What's the plan there?
I don't think it would necessarily be needed for food service, which is where the lip is going to be most problematic. It would still have plenty of value for many other things, like what you mentioned. We're always moving equipment around. Band and orchestra is certainly a great example.
Any further questions? Okay, I believe this is an action item a little bit later in our agenda. Do we have anything for other, Mr. Sedgwick?
No, I do not. Thank you.
All right, moving on to approving the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes minutes of the regular meeting of January 16th, 2024, minutes of the closed sessions of January 16th, 2024, minutes of the Committee of the Whole and special meeting of February 5th, 2024, personnel report dated February 2024, and financial reports of January 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through E.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Zedunick, support by Mrs. Klipp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Board committee reports, Committee of the Whole meeting of February 5th, 2024. In that meeting, we mostly discussed the rebranding issue and talked about what had been spent so far. So for just a recap, so far we've spent about $40,000, and that included some uniforms and a few other items. We also discussed that that had mostly come from, I believe, the general fund, and that we had not pursued any outside funding for that. Does anyone else want to add to that? No? Okay, student school representatives report.
So recently in our meetings, we just concluded homecoming about 2 weeks ago, and our assembly went super great.
And then next we have to plan the twerp dance, which will be on March 9th.
Thank you. Moving on to comments from the public, agenda items only. Ms. Brum?
Thank you. Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic. Y'all can hear me? I have requested to speak on item 11A, rebranding. I have 3 short statements to be made. First one is that as part of the next phase, Freedom of Information Act requests will be sent via U.S. Postal Service mail to various members of the board requesting various records. Scheduled to arrive this week. Might have been sooner, except I forgot the post office was shut today. So they will be arriving sometime in the next week. Second item is, and I don't have to share this with the board, but there's no reason not to. I've received the first substantive communication from the state of Michigan on one of my state trademark applications, which I consider to be absolutely normal routine procedure. That's what I expected, and it's what's happening. Item number 3, there's a press release from MAPS that was sent out on Wednesday, February 7th. I did not respond at the time, even though I think every media organization here and not here requested a response from me. There's no way anyone here could have known that, but when that press release was being released, I was in the process of calling St. Mike's to get a priest to go up to give my mother the last rites. We got there, priest got there in time, I got there in time to see her. She passed in the middle of the night. You can understand why I had, it just wasn't a focus of mine. I since had time to review it, and I have been instructed to deal with the board through your attorney, so my comments will go through the attorney. I have no public comments on that press release. I just wanted to let you know. And again, there's no way anybody in this board or anyone in the media could have known, but it just could not have come at a worse day. That is all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to hearing on policy 5207, anti-bullying. So if anyone has any public comment regarding the hearing for policy 5207, our anti-bullying policy, you may do so now. Okay, hearing no public comment. Consider the adoption of the resolution to adopt policy 5207, anti-bullying.
I'll make a motion to adopt policy 5207, the anti-bullying policy.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Klipp, support by Mrs. Maddox Smith. Board member comments? Or any questions regarding the policy? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to new business. Consider purchase of food truck. So I would entertain a motion for that.
I'd make a motion to purchase the food truck as recommended in the package tonight for consideration.
I would second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Hewitt, supported by Mr. Zdenek. Any further comments?
I don't know if I just thought of this too. Should I also clarify that the recommendation is to also have the post-purchase retrofitting of whatever else needs to be done to the truck as well? That was included in that proposals.
I believe it was included in the proposal.
That was included in the recommendation.
Okay.
So if you would like to approve the purchase price of $74,812.89, that I believe would satisfy that.
Okay, so
It would be a total of 80,
No,
the
it was
209.
74.
No, that's 74.
$74,812.89.
All right, so the motion would be the purchase and the additional modification of the truck for $74,812.
I would second.
Okay, so we have motion and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Consider adoption of the 2024 through 2025 Schools of Choice Resolution. Mr. Sedgwick, do we have anything for that?
No, not necessarily, Ms. Cambenzi. Standard protocol, just opening up schools of choice for all grades K through 12.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to consider the adoption of the 2024-2025 Schools of Choice Resolution.
I'll make a motion to adopt the school of choice resolution for 2024-25.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Hewitt, support by Mrs. Klipp. Any further comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consider the nomination of Kristen Cambenzi for Region 1 MASB Board of Directors. So this is an open position with MASB. They're seeking applicants to kind of throw their hat in the ring to be part of their board of directors. So we would represent most of the UP. So if anyone would like to nominate me.
Well, I'll nominate you. I will make a motion to nominate Kristen Cambenzi for Region 1 MASB Board of Directors.
Support.
Can I just clarify, do you want a nomination?
Yeah, that's a solid question.
I volunteered. Oh, no one else put their hat in the ring, so I figured somebody better.
Thank you.
So, motion made by Mrs. Klipp, support by Mrs. Maddox Smith. Any further comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Business, moving on to rebranding. One of the things I was hoping to kind of clarify tonight would be just a general timeline for submissions for logos. We didn't really do that at the committee of the whole meeting, and I just kind of wanted to get maybe more of a hard stop date for the for the submissions. So I think we're thinking probably sometime in March, so that people would have a month from when we first talked about it at our committee of the whole meeting to get their submissions in.
Seems like the natural ending would be whatever that Friday, is that the 24th, right before spring break? The last week of March, I believe, is spring break.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I think Monday's the 25th.
Okay.
so. Do we want to do the Friday before or Monday the 25th?
I don't know if it has to necessarily coincide with whether school's in session or not. I maybe just go through the end of March. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me in this. But.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with whichever. I just think that it would be good to have a
End date.
end date.
Absolutely, I
Or
think
is
people are
that Friday,
wanting
then
that.
it would be the 29th or something, right? So-
Friday the 29th or Sunday the 31st.
I would just ask, is the board wanting to make any decision in the March meeting? Because you'd want to have the okay.
No, I mean, I don't think so. I think we just want an end date for submissions, because I mean, I know we have like some students that are working on some submissions, just so that they know when to hand it in by. And for, excuse me, for community members too that want to make a submission for our new logo, that we have a hard date for that.
I was wondering if it would be, the reason I mentioned that Friday as a natural stop before spring break is that it may give people more time to take a look at it and peruse it. Decision makers or whatever the process is as far as how we rubric that out, kind of away from, as opposed to doing it when families are on vacations, potentially ending it the week before. Not a huge issue, but it is kind of a break for a lot of families and students and admins and such.
I mean, yeah, I'm fine if we have it the Friday before spring break starts, and then we'll just have all the submissions, then we won't talk about it until our committee of the whole meeting in April.
I think that's good. And I've had a number of people asking about, deadlines, so I think it's important we put one out there and give enough time, which that should be plenty of time, I think.
Okay, so what's that Friday date?
It's be the 22nd.
Okay, so March 22nd would be the deadline for submissions for a new logo for the Marquette Sentinels. Okay, and then I don't know if we have any further discussion about the rebranding process. I think so far we've gotten, quite a few submissions that have been kind of interesting, I think. Nothing that really screams this is it yet, but I think there's definitely some things that are in the right ballpark. So, does anyone else have any further comments about the rebranding? Okay. All right, moving on to comments from the public general. Ms. Brum?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic Street. I'm here tonight to talk in general. As many of you may or may not know, I'm a contingent assistant professor at Northern in the business law department, and I teach a class in legal environment of business. This week we are covering intellectual property, patents, trademarks, and copyrights, for which I have to put together slides for my students. I also have a history in the community of presenting different subjects on the patents, trademarks, and copyrights at the Marquette Peter White Public Library. And this began before COVID and continued through COVID. Sometimes I sat in my car in the parking lot with my phone in my hand, but we presented on many different subjects. So since I have to do this anyway, and since there's always, I haven't given a presentation like this in some time, I'm opening up the presentation that I'm giving to my students tomorrow to the public, and I wanted to invite everyone at Marquette Senior High School, students, faculty, staff, whomever, the media. It's going to be Thursday, February 29th at the Peter White Public Library in the Shiras Room from 6 to 8 p.m. It has no entrance fee. It's just general information. It is directed toward, just to give you an idea, I was shopping today for Lincoln Logs, and Lincoln Logs go back to the 1900s, and originally they were patented by the inventor, who was Frank Lloyd Wright's son. The patent expired, and now they're protected by a brand that has been renewed, and yet you can still find Lincoln Logs in another name, and they can't call them Lincoln Logs, so they say they're compatible with Lincoln Logs. So that's a business that's been in existence for over 100 years that has made good use of intellectual property. Another example I use is the Coca-Cola. I always have a bottle of Coke in my hand when I give this speech. The people who created Coca-Cola decided to never patent it. They could very well have put the formula in and gotten a 20-year lifespan on the patent, well, 17 years then. For a lot of good business reasons, they decided not to, and that it became a trade secret, and that is the most valuable trade secret as calculated by people who do this in the history of the world, because no one's been able to duplicate the formula. Nevertheless, Coca-Cola has made huge use of the intellectual property system. They have branding, the trademark, the special type font, all the things that go into making their brand unique. They also were one of the first businesses to open up behind the Iron Curtain after World War II. So they have a history of globalization as well as protecting their brand. And they also have, interestingly enough, design protection on their bottle, which was uniquely made for some time as well. So these are the types of things I wanted to assure the people who may think of attending. This is not a lecture on any particular type of intellectual property. It's for business students to let them know there's different ways to protect your business. And also sometimes it makes sense to get a patent, other times it makes sense to not. But also to be aware that someone else's intellectual property can be out there and you don't even know it because you take it for granted until you try to market something. And the most recent example in the Upper Peninsula, there's a rock, it glows in the black light. The local name for it was Uperlite. And there were a lot of people selling Uperlite until someone registered it as a trademark. And now they're the only people who can market it as Uperlite. Other people can market, glow-in-the-dark rocks from Upper Peninsula, but can't market it as Uperlite. So in conclusion, I'm inviting everyone, students, faculty, staff, to come to this presentation. It should be about an hour and 15 minutes, and then I allow 45 minutes for questions. It is not giving legal advice. It has nothing to do with legal advice, just to make people be aware of what's out and about. So I thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you. Eric Johnson?
Eric Johnson, 531 West Ridge Street. I'm addressing you tonight regarding an incident which occurred on 12/27/23. On that day, we received a call from our son Sawyer, crying, stating that Rich Leedy had removed him from the basketball team, not for drinking, using drugs, or poor grades, which are covered under the Code of Conduct and the Athletic Handbook, but for turning in a self-assessment assignment 1 day late. We, along with Sawyer, met with Mr. Leedy to discuss what had taken place. Mr. Leedy was adamant that Sawyer was removed from the team for turning in the assignment late, and that he, Mr. Leedy, believed Sawyer did not want to be there, neither of which is covered under the Code of Conduct. On 12/26/23, the day the assignment was due, Sawyer was at practice but threw up, so he was sent home by the freshman coach, Corey Eberhard, who was helping out that day. On 12/27, after Sawyer had handed in the assignment at the beginning of practice, Mr. Leedy stated he'd have to think about whether Sawyer would still be on the team. Following that conversation with Sawyer, Mr. Leedy pulled some of Sawyer's peers into a room off the auxiliary gym and initially planned on having them remove Sawyer from the team. This is nothing short of bullying and intimidating, and it should not be tolerated at any level. Before practice started that day, one of Mr. Leedy's coaches, Corey Eberhard, thought this dismissal was so wrong that he went to the athletic trainer to inquire about Sawyer's mental health. The athletic trainer is neither qualified or at liberty to say anything about mental health. I want you to think about that. Another coach was concerned about Sawyer's mental health because he knew this dismissal would be devastating. Teenage boys' suicide rates are at an all-time high. Was this dismissal worth the gamble? At the end of practice that day, Mr. Leedy addressed the team stating, "I think your lives are too easy, and I'm not afraid to be the dick to make them harder." Let me ask you this as parents. Is this the type of character and role model and leadership we want for our student athletes? Do we really need or want anyone to be the dick in their lives to make things harder? Our kids have enough pressures in everyday life and are looking for a supportive and positive environment to participate in sports. Is Mr. Leedy providing this environment? Ask yourself, is Mr. Leedy practicing integrity, safety, inclusivity, professionalism? This board and the administration were made aware of this incident by email that day. My wife Sawyer and I met with the athletic director and principal on January 4th to further explain the situation. We had many concerns and asked that Mr. Leedy's actions and statements be thoroughly investigated. Again, according to the athletic handbook provided by this district, signed by Sawyer and myself before the season, we should have been provided a timely response within 5 school days. 3 weeks after no response and repeated messages, we were told by Mr. Wheeler that, and I quote, "Given the severity of the situation and the impact on all parties involved, including Sawyer, I'm sure you can appreciate our desire and need to be extremely thorough. 18 school days and a full month since the incident happened, we met again with the AD and principal. The only thing investigated in that whole time, 1 month, where my son had to answer questions from peers, teachers, and community members about why he's not playing, the only thing investigated were the whens, wheres, hows, and ifs regarding an irrelevant assignment. No mention of the inappropriate language, no mention of the mental health component, no mention of having Sawyer's own peers involved in the decision to remove him from the team. Not even an apology to us or to Sawyer, just a statement by Mr. Tizio stating this was handled poorly. A summary of the meeting was sent to us, which stated that the coach was given a written reprimand for not following the protocol, and Sawyer was offered a spot back on the team with the same coach that showed how he feels about him by removing him in the first place. Due to the lack of addressing or investigating our concerns, we then met with Mr. Sedgwick. When asked if this was acceptable for a MAPS teacher to use this language in a classroom, he answered no, it would not. So it's okay for Mr. Leedy to conduct himself this way, but not a teacher. On a positive note, Mr. Sedgwick did apologize to us as parents for this incident. Thus far, no one has apologized to Sawyer. Since this incident happened, we've received many messages of support and some very concerning messages regarding Mr. Leedy's history. 2 different families told us their child had to see a counselor when being coached by Mr. Leedy. One mom stated her child had to go on anti-anxiety medication because of Mr. Leedy. This community is astonished at what this coach did and what he has gotten away with saying. Us, along with many community members, are outraged as a result of the less than thorough investigation, and we ask the board to ask some very pointed questions to Mr. Leedy and your own administrators. Number 1, was our son treated fairly in accordance with your own code of conduct? Number 2, is it acceptable for a coach to speak to players this way? Number 3, has the language or the fact that the coach wanted the captains to tell one of their peers he was off the team, or the mental health aspect, even been looked into? I'm sure this board has access to that written reprimand, and we'll see if all things have been addressed. Is it acceptable for your own administration to take this long to do a thorough and extensive investigation and then not look into all aspects and concerns of the situation? We're asking that the board please look into all aspects regarding this incident, because up to this point it has not been investigated thoroughly by the 3 levels of management underneath you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving on to gifts and bequests. Donation of 15 bleeding control kits by the Marquette Firefighters Local 643 Union through a grant by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Bureau of Trauma, EMS, and Preparedness. Donation of 1,100 Marquette Sentinels t-shirts for MSHS Spirit Week by anonymous donors. And board member comments. Mr. Zdunek?
No additional comments right now, thank you.
Mrs. Maddox-Smith?
I just want to thank our student reps for being here. You guys are why we're here, so thank you. Look forward to seeing what comes up with the twerp dance. I want to thank all of our board members and our support staff for all the hard work they do. I don't think people realize how many hours and how much time we all put into this, but we do. And Kristen, I want to also give you a shout out for taking on another important role in education. We laugh as we say it, but you know, your dedication, and you're here for the kids, and that deserves to be shouted out to the community. Big thanks to our community, the Marquette firefighters, those bleed control kits. I'm an RN, and I can tell you, first off, those are amazing and they're not cheap. So thank you so much for donating those. In a critical incident, it's the difference between life and death. And our generous community, thank you for the t-shirts that were donated to our students and staff. Just, we live in such a great place with so many great people. Thank you.
Ms. Ray?
I'll just say ditto. All that, thanks.
Mrs. Klipp?
Nothing further to add, but reaffirming the thank yous to both of those groups of folks. Appreciate it very much.
Mr. Hewitt?
No additional comments, thanks.
Board president comments? No additional comments. Moving on to announcements and other meetings. February 21st is 8th grade orientation. Wow. 9 through 12 early release. February 23rd, 2024, half day for students and a PD day. February 28th and 29th, 6 through 12 parent-teacher conferences. March 1st, 2024, 6 through 12 half day. March 4th, Committee of the Whole meeting here in the library at 5:30. March 6th and 7th, K through 5 parent-teacher conferences. March 7th and 8th, K through 5 half days. March 18th, 2024, board meeting here in the library at 5:30. And I would entertain a motion to recess to closed session in the central office boardroom, parents' request under section 8B of OMA to address student 2023-01 discipline matter. So I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recess to closed session to address student 2023-01 discipline matter.
Support.
Motion made by Mr. Hewitt, support by Mrs. Maddox Smith. And then roll call.
We wouldn't need a roll call.
Oh, we don't? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then we will recess to closed session at the central office boardroom.